Okay, this is going to be an update video to a story that I talked about a couple weeks ago. And they really kind of slipped this one by us because I did not know that this was the outcome. Because look at the date. It was posted October 26, 2021, and here we are in mid-November with this update. But to give you a little backstory, I did a video about a man in Loudoun County, Virginia, who basically caused a big, I guess you could say, a big dust up, and not in a, it wasn't a bad way, but not on his behalf, but because of what happened to his daughter. Basically, what happened was this kid who is biologically born as a male, who identifies as trans, ended up sexually assaulting his daughter inside of the girl's restroom at the school. And they literally practically almost did nothing to this kid who did this to this man's daughter, and except transfer him to another school, in which he ended up doing the same thing to somebody else's child. And then that's when they decided to step it up and say, okay, something's got to be done. Listen, all it takes is one time. And then they were having meetings, and he went to the meetings, and then, he ended up getting reprimanded. Like, they actually tried to make the dad out to be the bad guy. Like, they ended up like arresting him and, trying to say he was doing this and he was doing that. It's gotten to that point where it's that scary, where someone can do something like that to your child and you can't even defend them, even when you're trying to defend them. Well, the update has come along, and it says Virginia judge finds transgender teen guilty of sexual assault in Loudoun County high school girls bathroom case. Posted October 26, 2021. So I'm going to go ahead and read this article and see what else they're talking about. A Virginia juvenile court judge ruled Monday a transgender teen was guilty of sexually assaulting a female classmate at Loudoun County High School last May. The National Review reports Chief Judge Pamela L. Brooks of the Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court found there was sufficient evidence to determine the teenager was guilty of sexual assault in the case that has received national attention. The victim, a 15-year-old girl, testified in court that she engaged in consensual sexual activity with the defendant 2 other times in the girls' bathroom at Stonebridge High School, but on the occasion in question, she had been violently intimidated to perform sexual acts, the outlet reported. Now, this right here is new, because I didn't know this the first time. She said that she testified in court that there were 2 times before the assault happened where she engaged in consensual sexual activity with the person that ended up sexually assaulting her the 3rd time that sex was involved. So I didn't know that first part, so this is new, because they said she testified. According to the Commonwealth's attorney, the teenager is accused of 2 separate incidents that happened months apart at different Loudoun County high schools. According to Fox 5, the teen was wearing an ankle monitor for the prior assault at Stonebridge when he allegedly forced a girl into the empty classroom and groped her at a new school. I'm so glad that this article referred to this person by what they were biologically born as. They didn't say her. They didn't even say trans. They said he. That wasn't me inserting that in there. That was them putting that in there. At CBN's Faith Wire reported, Scott Smith, the girl's father, told the Daily Wire his daughter had been sexually assaulted in late May while she was in the bathroom at Stonebridge High School. The attack was allegedly committed by a teenage boy who entered the girl's bathroom wearing a skirt. Smith grew visibly angry at a Loudoun County public school board meeting on June 22nd when no one acknowledged his daughter's alleged sexual assault. He also voiced his concerns over students using restrooms that correspond with their chosen gender identity. He said the controversial policies being pushed by LCPS factored into the attack against his daughter. He was arrested for disorderly conduct. If someone would have sat and listened for 30 seconds to what Scott had to say, they would have been mortified and heartbroken, Smith's attorney Elizabeth Lancaster told the Daily Wire. Smith has reportedly filed a civil lawsuit against the school board. WTOP-TV reported on October 21st, Superintendent Scott Ziegler told the school board about the first incident on May 28th, but it was hidden from the public for many months. See, they were protecting him. Even in the midst of a girl being sexually assaulted, they still protected this boy, because that's what he is, from scrutiny because of what happened on their watch. The purpose of this email is to provide you with information regarding an incident that occurred at Stonebridge High School this afternoon. A female student alleged that a male student sexually assaulted her in the restroom. The LCSO is investigating the matter, Ziegler wrote. The same transgender student is then accused of committing a second sexual assault against a girl on October 6th at a different school. Although Ziegler said at a June 22nd school board meeting there was no record of any sexual assaults in the bathroom, his May 28th email reveals he and the board would have been aware of the incident prior to the summer meeting when parents raised serious concerns about allowing students to use whichever restrooms correlate with their chosen gender identities. Several parents said the policy would endanger children's safety. In response, the school board member Beth Bartz, who has since resigned, asked Ziegler if there were any sexual assaults occurring regularly in the school bathrooms. The predator transgender student or person simply does not exist, the superintendent said at the time. We don't have any records of assault occurring in our restrooms. Ziegler later apologized for his misleading claim, telling reporters he thought the question was in reference to assault specifically involving transgender identity kids. He knew exactly what it was. He trying to play. He trying to act like he didn't know what they were talking about. He knew exactly what they were talking about. First, let me say to the families and students involved, my heart aches for you, he said, and I am sorry that we failed to provide the safe, welcoming, and affirming environment that we aspire to provide. We acknowledge and share your pain, and we will continue to offer you support to help your families through this trauma. Meanwhile, Republican gubernatorial candidate Glenn Youngkin called for an immediate investigation into the Loudoun County School Board for their gross negligence after the two alleged sexual assault incidents involving a trans student came to light. They had a duty of care, Youngkin said during a campaign event in Burke, Virginia. And by the way, like I said, this is an article that was a couple weeks ago. This is before the election. Of course, we know by now Youngkin did win the governor seat in Virginia. They endangered our students and violated the Virginia Constitution. Instead of investigating parents, the Department of Justice should be investigating those who cover up a heinous crime in our schools, Youngkin said during his speech at the Burke Volunteer Fire and Rescue Department. They not only covered up a heinous crime, but they enabled an offender being prosecuted of sexual assault to attack again. As CBN News reported, the state's Democratic majority legislature passed HB 257, which ended mandatory school reporting of certain crimes to the police, including sexual battery. Now look at that. Look at that bill. That HB 257 said ended mandatory school reporting of certain crimes to the police, including sexual battery, which means the school is not required to report something like that. They can choose to if they want to, but a lot of times they won't. In this case, they didn't. They chose not to. So parents are not aware. So law enforcement is not aware. I think this has a lot to do with how they handle both of these rapes, said Loudoun County parent Patty Mender. And that's the article right there. That was a mouthful right there. That was a lot to digest. First off, well, I'm glad that they found this freak of nature. I don't care if he's a teen or not. He is what he is. Guilty of the crime in which he did commit, because it was a crime. It should be crimes because it happened more than once. And that's exactly why a lot of people do not want trans to use the same restroom as women. Here's a perfect example right here. And this story is not making that much traction. I wonder how many people in the academy even know this story exists, and if they do, what are they saying about it? My guess is for both of them, they could know, maybe they don't, because they kept this on a local level. They did not blow this up in the media. I did not remember seeing on any of the big networks them talking about this. This thing remained on a local level. And if I wasn't scrolling through someone's Twitter profile, I would not have seen it. I mean, look at it. It is currently November 13th, and this ruling came out on October 26th. We're talking about, 3 weeks ago. This was before the election. This was like about a week or so before the election. And the only reason, like I said, I'm talking about it now a couple weeks later is because I already did the first part of the video on it, and this is the update. Y'all know I like to, if there's an update to come along, I'm going to do it or talk about it. But they try to keep this under wraps. So now I'm curious to see what kind of punishment this teen is actually going to get. But everybody who needs to be held responsible needs to have their feet held to the fire, especially that school board. And that HB 257 bill, I'm telling you, they are drafting up and pushing out these draconian bills to protect those in the academy. Don't get me started on the kind of bills they got flourishing all up and through California, giving them protection. I can't believe there's actually a bill that says it's mandatory that the schools don't have to report certain crimes, including sexual battery. So they were acting within the confines of the bill and saying they didn't have to do it. So like I said, for all intents and purposes, the school most likely knew of what was going on. But because that bill was in place, they decided to not act on it because they were not required to act on it. It's some wild stuff. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. One other thing I would like to add in here that I forgot to say is that they didn't even mention this teen's name, the one that committed this act. I know they like to keep them confidential because of age purposes and technically because he is a minor, but still at the same time, he committed a heinous crime, not once, but 2 times. So I think that's grounds for us to know exactly who he is. They do it with black teens a lot. And some of them don't even commit these kind of crimes. And if they did, they would make sure to put their names and their faces out there. Not only do we not know his name, we don't even know what this kid looks like. I understand keeping the girls confidential because at the end of the day, she's the victim and she's a minor. But in this case, I think they should have made an exception.